All right, we were just discussing in the last segment, there is still much that we don't know, even after 2 days of the polls being closed and people, counting the votes. But there is also much that we do know, not only when it comes to the winners, but also when it comes to the voters and what they were saying. With me now to discuss this is Connor Semelsberger. He's the Director of Federal Affairs for Life and Human Dignity at the Family Research Council. Connor, been a busy week. Welcome back to Washington Watch.
Good to be here.
All right, so many of the initial reactions have focused on how family and marriage dynamics continue to play a massive role in voter attitudes. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so CNN had some very interesting exit polling that I think plays right into what we do here right at FRC. And that's how did married women and men and how did women and men who are parents vote? Well, if you're married, you were much more likely to vote Republican. And the one demographic that was exceedingly in favor of Democrats, 68%, was unmarried women. Just stark contrast. Even unmarried men went for the GOP. So that was something that was a new trend. And you converse that to parents, and as much as Republicans tried to, or certain races played up parents' bills of rights and parental rights, it clearly didn't sink in with the voters, because even parents across the board, even women who were parents, went to the Democrats even by a point. So cultural attitudes aren't just something we talk about here as platitudes, but it really matters on your worldview, how you engage in society, and as we found out this week, how you vote.
Well, we've known for years that people who buy houses, once they have home ownership, they become a little more fiscally conscious, and especially when it comes to policy. But when they have children, we also know they become more socially conservative. Could that be why we see some of the policies of the left that, quite frankly, are encouraging people, number one, not to marry, at least not young, pushing marriage off, pushing childbearing off, hoping that those liberal ideas are locked in place for the duration?
I think that's spot on, really is. You think about it, pushing college for all delays marriage, delays home buying, just like you said, rather than college alternatives, maybe some people going right into the workforce. And boy, the abortion messaging has really sunk in, that they want young women to go to college, stay unmarried, put her career first, herself first, her travel expenses, and all that stuff way before anything about starting a family, finding a spouse, having children, becoming a mother. Because as you said, once that happens, they lose that ingraination that they have given to them all throughout their college years. So it's definitely been a focus of theirs. It looks like it played out for them a little bit this election.
Well, and I hear a lot of times from parents saying, how do I get my kids to move in the right direction when it comes to the way they think politically? Well, one, raise them in such a point where they'll be able to find the right spouse, led by the Lord. They'll get married and they'll have children in that order and become productive members of society. And I've heard it over and over from young people. First time they have a child, they all of a sudden become very, very concerned about the culture. All right, that's a conversation that we can have another day. I want to move into the election results at the state level. Now, there was a lot of anticipation of this huge red wave. It didn't happen. We were talking a little bit earlier with Matt, made a lot of sense, that redistricting has really set Congress in such a place that there's not a lot of swing districts anymore. So these huge waves that we used to see just aren't something that's going to happen very often. But let's talk about what occurred at the state level. What do we know there?
Yeah, it was the same thing you saw at the federal level. You just take that down a notch. It was the same exact thing. Where things were good for Republicans, it was really good. State level in Florida, they won the governorship. They also got super majorities in the House and Senate. Same thing in Iowa. They reelected Kim Reynolds. They even flipped an attorney general's race in Iowa. A Democrat who had held that seat for 30 years went Republican, and they also gained super majorities. So where things went well at the state level for Republicans, it went really well. But you look at places like Michigan, Pennsylvania, where Democrats at the top of the ticket won governorships. They also flipped state houses and state senates. So just what you saw at the federal level, it's trickling down to the states too, where red states are getting redder, and where blue states have blue Democrats at the top, they're getting more Democratic.
Connor, do you think that the issue of abortion is going to accelerate that as this division of the country and these states, as you see the red states embracing life, putting into law the Democratic states like Michigan actually and California putting abortion into their constitutions. That's going to be a further division of the country, is it not?
It really is, and it's sad to say, but that's just sort of a natural outgrowth of what Roe falling gave us now, right? California is more pro-abortion than they ever were. You see states like Florida and Iowa, they have good pro-life laws, but with supermajorities, they might even act further pro-life laws. So I think that's going to further silt our country, the big sort, as they've called it in the past, where people are going to just set in the segments where they're similar to everyone else and continue to become more conservative, more liberal. And I think the abortion issue might even accelerate that even further. So we'll be in the thick of things pushing these pro-life laws, but it's something we're going to have to contend with in the future.
All right, Connor Semelsberger, we're going to be talking more in the days ahead. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yep, appreciate being on.